Hello, everyone, and welcome to Screenwalks. My name is Marco De Mutis. I'm digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland. And together with John Uriarte at the Photographers Gallery in London, we have created this collaborative program of fortnightly live streamed events. Through Screenwalks, we are interested in investigating the changing role of the photographic image in its networked and digital forms. Each event is led by an artist, a researcher, or a curator who takes the audience to the spaces where their core practices take place. Screenwalks can be a live performance, a peek behind the scenes of an artwork, or a guided online tour, among other possible formats. We have hosted almost 60 Screenwalks events so far, and you can find video recordings of each one of them on our website and YouTube channel. Go to screenwalks.com to find more. And then if you have found Screenwalks useful for your professional or personal interests, do consider subscribing to Folders. For €7, you'll support the program and its artists, and also get your personalized folder on folders.screenwalks.com. There you will receive files and extra content from the artists and researchers of Screenwalks. Now, some housekeeping information. Your microphone should be muted to avoid noise disturbances. If it's still on, please mute it now. We are recording and we will be archiving this event. Finally, please use the public chat to ask a question throughout the event, or feel free to send a private message to John, named the Photographers Gallery, or me, Fotomuseum Winterthur.
Hello from my side too. I'm John Uriarte, curator of the digital programs at the Photographers Gallery in London. Tonight, we'll be looking at one of the most overlooked, exploited, and disrespected elements of the network cultures, the memes. Memes are those small pieces of media that started as a combination of images and text that circulate among online communities and platforms. Even if they are frequently disregarded by some as the detritus of online culture, the interest in looking into their cultural, economic, and political value has increased over the years. The significant role that memes played on very influential events like the Donald Trump's 2020 election or the Brexit campaign has raised a wider interest in what has been called the meme wars. At the same time, the endless content hunger of social media platforms has created a new workforce of content producers. Probably the most well-known are the people who create and circulating visual media that feeds and thrives within the politics and algorithmic mechanics of any given platform. However, on those very same sites and ruled by the very same mechanics and politics, meme makers have reached a great influence and popularity through irony and critique. Their ironic comments on any and everyday aspect of life are followed and shared by millions. We are very happy and excited to have researcher Idil Galip with us today, who has recently handed her PhD on creative digital labor of meme making, and will introduce us to her ongoing research on memes. Idil will start first with contextualizing their relevance and impact on contemporary society. Then she will share her research techniques to find, download, and analyze memes, to finally take us on to her ongoing projects. Idil Galip holds a PhD from the University of Edinburgh and is currently a lecturer in new media and digital culture at the University of Amsterdam. She primarily writes about the creative work of meme making and the platformization of culture through theoretical interventions and ethnographic methods. She also runs Meme Studies Research Network, which is an interdisciplinary network for people who studies memes. Idil, we are very happy and excited to have you with us today. The screen is yours.
Thanks so much for that nice introduction. So my name is Idil. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm really excited to be here with you. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through some of the concepts that I worked with in my PhD. I'm going to show you some of the processes that I used to collect memes, to make sense of meme cultures, to understand what it means to be a meme maker. I have two monitors, so I'm going to be facing this way mostly because it's just easier for me that way. But I'll just be talking throughout the presentation. I just also want to mention that I woke up with a flu this morning, so I do have a pretty sore throat. So I'm gonna try not to talk so much. I'll leave spaces for you to interact with me over chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat and maybe, you know, talk about anything that you're curious about. So it's gonna be like a flexible sort of situation, I think. I think we can start, and I'll just share my screen. Classic Zoom motto. Right. Yeah, so maybe I can just start by, I'm not gonna do like a full screen today. I just wanna show you like how messy my process is. I think most people also recognize the software. It's called Canva. It's basically used for like social media marketing. So there's like a definite like content circulation sort of logic embedded within the platform itself. I mean, let's go see what I've done. I mean, this is also it's pretty intrusive, right? But I'm kind of reveling in the fact that I get to show you some of like these really private, I guess, vernacular practices or internet practices that I engage with daily. I find it quite lonely to do this sort of thing. I was watching Molly Soda, her screen walk. And I thought that was like so interesting, the way she was talking about how the desktop is like the like last private digital thing that we have, and sharing it is kind of it's definitely like an emotional experience. It sounds like quite frivolous, but I think honestly, it definitely is. But I kind of like it, you know, it's something that ties us all together, which then takes me to my background in sociology. I'm interested in these sorts of social relations that we have with each other over bits of technology. I have a PhD in sociology. I wrote a thesis about memes, which is, I'm sure some people will find that offensive that it's ever even like a thing that's happening. But I kind of, I like the power of memes. I like that they're a bit transgressive or offensive at times. And sometimes they don't play well with institutional boundaries, which I'm also aware of during Zoom or hybrid events, of course. So I'm a lecturer in new media and digital culture at the University of Amsterdam. I just started in September after submitting my thesis, which was an exploration of the role, I guess, of meme making within wider internet practices. I particularly focused on a reading of meme making as digital labor, as free labor, through some Marxist readings, but also some readings in vernacular creativity. I was also quite influenced by kind of art history and I guess like people like Cindy Sherman, of course, and Joe Spence. So I'm quite interested in different readings of meme cultures. So my thesis was a bit of I think a mishmash of those disciplines and approaches. That makes it into quite a messy thing, but I find digital life to be quite messy for me. It's hard to keep a hold over your data and over how much you use it. So I think in my research kind of reflects that practice, that like experience of being online. I'm actually that's like probably the thing that I'm most interested in is that like experience of onlineness, an experience of posting. So that's generally what I focus on. And within my thesis, I was largely interested in the kind of conditions of cultural production on digital platforms, and my case study was meme makers on Instagram. I initially started becoming interested in meme histories, about where history starts and history ends, and how these sorts of vernacular practices like memes are understood through different canons. That kind of led me into different threats. So when I first started learning about memes, I wanted to see, people would usually ask me the question, okay, was there a first meme? And I thought, obviously you can't answer that question, right? Because the idea of meme is something that, you know, if we take on like Dawkins, explanation, it's something that transcends the internet, or is pre-internet. So that kind of, that sort of ideas or explorations led me down certain libraries online, especially the US. I think this is one of their state libraries, or is it the Congress, the Library of Congress? I think that's what it is. So this is basically one of the earliest, I think, memetic templates that I found when I first started doing my research into memes. It was published circa 1861 during the American Civil War. And this is basically a very, I think, popular meme template that if you've been online for a while, you might recognize, which is the kind of before after sort of juxtaposition of like two realities, a realization. I thought that was like an interesting kind of connection. And then I kind of picked up on some other stuff, like this meme from the 1920s from a US satirical magazine, which then you can find a very similar sort of sibling today. So this is the sort of stuff that I started out with. As you can see, there's lots of politics involved with finding these histories. I mean, when you're writing history, obviously you're coming from a subjective point of view, but you're also limited by certain limitations, access to resources. And I think in the US, there's a whole lot of kind of these processes that are happening that makes them more of like, I think it's easier to find such like memes or caricatures or illustrations from US archives rather than let's say like Turkish archives, because there's a whole lot of politics behind that. So I'm also very aware about the stories that I tell about meme culture, that they come from they're limited by specific things. So this is sort of like the beginning of how I of my interest into memes, but maybe this is a time where I can show you my how I organized these memes in my thesis. Initially, my whole case study was based on the question, what is it like to be a meme maker today on the internet, on certain digital platforms like Patreon or Instagram, on Twitter even, and how do meme makers make their memes, and how what is their experience like spreading these memes on these digital platforms? What sort of conditions are they working under? So this is kind of a little, I guess, folder of the memes that I worked with for my thesis. It was this like initial collection that I used from some of the meme makers that I spoke with. Let me go back and see if there's, I think I have another presentation that I could show you. Is it this one? Let's see. Is it the same one? I think that's the same one. In any case, I thought there was going to be some other slides that I could work with. Let me see. Okay, I think this is a better place for us to be in. So this is where my work really started. I think this question really started driving my research online. I was interested in what it means to make memes, why people make memes, what it means to share them, and what it means to post them online. To do that, I took a bunch of different methods. So obviously, like I mentioned, because it was such a messy process, it all started with scrolling. So to, I think, build some sort of mimetic capital, you have to be on the internet for a certain amount of time. So it's like coming from sociology and trying to apply these ethnographic methods to collecting and analyzing internet memes. I had to do some, I guess you could say, I don't know, like mental gymnastics to apply the stuff that I'd learned in my like sociology training. And one of them was like ethnography, and particularly the role of photographs or snapshots within that kind of ethnographic process. Through my scrolling, scrolling's like also kind of like strolling, you know, strolling around a neighborhood you might be studying, or strolling around, I think, even an exhibition space that you might be studying. That's what scrolling like was like for me, and clicking certain things, saving certain things on Instagram. That was my entire like ethnographic process. While I was doing that, I was also understanding what the internet looked like around me. What sort of algorithms was, you know, my internet use sending me down, like algorithmic loopholes. Where was I ending up? Who's like creating culture on Instagram, and why does this matter? Those are some of the things that like really directed my activities. To start like really understanding these questions, I had to to me, this was quite clear that I had to interview people who are making the memes. I think this is something that I often see not lacking, but something that is often ignored in meme research, or studies about memes or meme circulation, is that people don't, or researchers don't really tend to do interviews with meme makers. Of course, there's like various people who have done this, but the general like majority relies on collecting lots of memes, you know, big data or digital methods, collecting tons and tons of memes, and then employing certain like computational methods to reveal certain things about like the mimetic subcultures or the memes themselves. So I wasn't so interested in that. I wanted to know what people were doing and how they were doing it. So after interviewing meme makers, I would ask them for consent, basically, so I could use their images or memes in my thesis. And I would also, through it all, I would be taking screenshots, or even like you could call them like photographs of what I was doing, whether that was scrolling, clicking, saving, or even watching live streams, or making memes. So all those screenshots I felt like were field notes to me, and that's sort of what I'm going to be trying to show you while I move between tabs and maybe even show you some of my desktop. So the way I was collecting memes was mostly on Instagram. I would take screenshots of them and yeah, put them in folders, folders within folders within folders, which also was creating a lot of, I think it's created a lot of trash on my desktop. It's kind of like a digital skip on there at the moment. And I also have a hard time saying goodbye to these memes that I've collected. And so I don't really know what to do. I was in Arnhem in an event last week, and someone was actually talking about digital hoarding, which I find to be a very interesting topic. It took me so many steps to get to these memes that I'll be showing you today. And there was like tons and tons of drafts and images and all these screenshots that are like basically really messy. The names are all, they don't really mean anything. They are just cluttered and kind of have taken over my ethnographic kind of field notes. But basically, while it's like a little bit, I find it sometimes a bit overwhelming to look at all this stuff. I also think it's like a reflection, a truthful reflection of my experience online. It's like infinite scrolling, lots of saving and never looking, you know, back at what you've saved. I've seen memes about this as well, you know, having like 15,000 screenshots on your phone and not doing anything with them, but not being able to delete them either. I think there's that's where some of like that spiritual power of memes come from, that sort of like social mystical kind of hold that they have over us, is that once they are in our phones or on our desktops, they make their presence kind of, it's often not temporary. You get stuck with memes on your desktop, I find. So yeah, the way I was collecting memes they were from my interviewees' Instagram pages, and I was quite interested in the idea of taking screenshots on platforms and what that meant for certain platforms. So while I was taking a screenshot of Instagram pages, I did not really have that much of a, I think, worry that Instagram would disappear. However, when I was taking screenshots of certain more, let's say like niche or not as well kind of serviced platforms, I often thought about what it would mean for me or for my data or for my project if these platforms were to die. So, and one of a platform death actually, in some way, we can maybe call it like content death, happened while I was doing my field research, in which basically a web page that I was gathering data from went dormant because the platform that was hosting the page was bought by American media giant AT&T. So this is, you might know this platform. It's called Adult Swim. So Rick and Morty, all these like big sort of adult cartoons are done by Adult Swim. They were also doing this live stream that I was really interested in which a couple of meme makers would do like meme making challenges and talk about the meme trends of the week. It's called Bottom Text. So I took lots of screenshots of this particular page, and now today if you try and look for it, it's actually gone. So you can't, I have these like, basically I think of this as like a digital death mask of this web page that's now gone forever. And I find that quite interesting, because also it's a very subjective point of view, a very subjective lens onto this platform, and it leaves certain screenshotting, of course, leaves so many personal traces, you know, notes from the screenshotter, I guess you can call them, like this, for instance. So this is I found a screenshot from 2020. I don't remember taking a screenshot. Obviously, it's something that I haven't looked at since I've taken it. And that also makes me think, oh my God, how many of these like trash like screenshots do I have on my computer, and how am I gonna get rid of them all? Like it's so the idea is so overwhelming. But you can see, basically, you can see that I have my spam email account open. I've been writing something on Word. I'm on Teams. I'm also trying to use this social science tool that I obviously don't know how to use, but I'm trying. And then in the background, I'm also watching a live stream about some memes. Of course, this is the live stream from September 11th, 2019, which also makes this a particularly like politically charged photographs. And I think this the idea of these like subjective screenshots that exist all across, you know, the world, like how do we, where's like, I'm really interested in like kind of like reality, truth, or internet history that's depicted by such screenshots. Needless to say, this sort of like stuff, these sorts of images didn't really make it to my thesis, but while they're like interesting, I think they're just debris, and they're like literally like digital debris. I feel like one of those like obvious texts is the poor image, right? I feel most people will know what I'm talking about. It's here somewhere, but yeah, it kind of reminds me of yeah, like just like the fact that this is like such an ugly image. It like really reflects that sort of messiness and of the internet experience well. Here's some other memes that I can show you. I think this is also some sort of like internet or media history. So this is from the webpage that I mentioned that kind of died or was like taken off because AT&T bought Adult Swim. This was like what the meme stream, their meme show was called. It was called Bottom Text, and they were also like kind of a loose, let's say, collective of meme makers and multimedia artists who were really interested in grotesque aesthetics, a sort of like Dadaist, obviously, sensibility, and a decidedly like 2010s approach to meme making. So these are some posters that I found online while I was looking for some like traces of this Bottom Text live stream. I don't know if I explained why I was looking at this. Let me just go back and explain the story of Bottom Text. So when I was introducing my thesis and I was saying, okay, like I'm interested in what it means to be a meme maker, I decided to interview some meme makers, and some of them are actually part of Bottom Text. So I was also interested in Bottom Text and the meme makers involved, as they like, I think, represented some sort of break in internet history, but also within, I want to say, net art or digital art, or even within digital folklore. These, as I was like interviewing them, I was finding out that all these like meme makers, they were involved with not only making memes, but they were doing sorts of different sorts of like artistic or craft and endeavors. One of them being, you know, putting up small installations around like independent venues. This is from, yeah, Atlanta. So there was, I think Atlanta was also this sort of small cultural, not small, but like smaller compared to, let's say, New York or something, a cultural hub where this sort of more independent or alternative art forms were, I think, popping up. And I've heard certain readings about like the role of Atlanta in arts. And I think recently some people were discussing that, you know, the rent prices in Atlanta are rising a lot. So that's like making it really hard for independent artists to live there. So there's obviously that sort of relationship of this sort of this like collectives or movements emerging, and class divides, as well as being able to be independent in a city with art. So these are all they're kind of like globalized artifacts, we could say, because I was collecting these in the UK, but these events were happening in Atlanta, so they're also localized in a very specific sense. So yeah, these are some of my interviewees, and I wanted to know more about what was happening in that art movement, I guess, and I started like collecting I started collecting these posters.
It is, sorry.
Yeah, these are all digital. Yeah.
Just because you mentioned that you'd rather have the question throughout the talk, I just this is okay as a moment to bring you some questions from the chat, maybe.
Yeah, please do, while I have some coffee.
All right, so I have also from the Twitch chat, we've seen some nostalgic comments about the bottom text, and in Zoom we have Xiangran Liu, who is asking, I wonder how to understand content death.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can tell me, because I'm just like trying to understand it myself. I'm also very aware that I come from a very subjective point of view and very nostalgic, in a sense that like I think this is like more of an, there could be like, it could be read through like affect theory, maybe. I don't know if you that's like a good way to think about it, but there's like definitely something like very visceral that's attached to seeing like a platform die. I mean, one thing that I also did mention in my thesis is this. So originally I'm from Turkey, and when I was growing up, we had a website called Bobiler. As you can see, you can't go on to bobiler.org anymore because it died 2 years ago. It was home to a sort of mimetic production called, what was it called? It was called Caps, I think. If anyone knows what it was called, can you please drop it in the chat? If anyone speaks Turkish and remembers bobiler.org, that'd be amazing. I mean, this place, which housed like basically a kind of like the origins of some of like Turkish meme culture, is now completely dead because it just became too expensive to host, and people, it had like already died a sort of hype death or like clout death. People weren't really going on it anymore, and I think it just became like kind of, maybe it needed to die. I don't know, what do you think? Does some content have to die? Should we be okay with that? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
There was another maybe more of a comment on the chat related to the idea of the digital overload. And Tina shared a message on the chat saying sometimes a good way to overcome digital overload and hoarding is to buy a new computer and only take the bare essentials to the new computer, just like when you move house.
Yeah, which I do very often. So I feel like there's like a pattern. Oh yeah, I think I definitely need a new computer. My employer gave me an HP computer, and it's really like taking me back because it kind of just stops working in the middle. So I need a new computer, that's for sure. But I've had this since, I mean, I've got a very old computer. I'm also very like, I don't want to buy a new computer because I feel guilty about it.
Yeah, in fact, Esther just commented on the first comment of Tina saying, however, the price is too expensive, no, of buying a new computer or even more of moving houses. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so expensive. Unless they're like reimbursing you, then buying a laptop or moving house shouldn't be, I don't think it's like very accessible for most people. I'm just seeing when my computer was made, about this, Martin. How do I learn? So I think it's from 2015. Oh yeah, early 2015. So that's old. This is a millennial laptop, I think, firmly within the millennial era, where I peaked. Okay. Are there any more comments?
Yeah, there's another question, and in fact, I wanted to, while you were talking, I searched on the Wayback Archive and the Wayback Machine, boviler.org. I'm sharing the link on the chat just in case someone wants to
nice.
check.
That's awesome.
The website that you were mentioning. But there's a comment by the Badrita saying sorry, there's a previous one saying by Corey saying, how do you envision these archives being seen or displayed in the future?
I think it's gonna be, I don't want to start like ranting about the apocalypse, like environmental apocalypse. So I don't know. I feel like it's not gonna be, yeah, like this is like, I don't know, we're creating so much trash, not only on Earth, like on like the physical realm, but also through our like data use. I don't know. It makes me feel like a little bit sad thinking about how this might be talked about in the future. Maybe they'll be like, look at these people. Can you believe them? You know, I don't know.
And following up on that, the Badrita says, with features like Instagram memories, if you have had a screenshot of the image and shared, some content can be resurrected because they do leave a footprint behind. So yeah, I guess that many of these platforms already, like, they are maybe archiving it, even if the main purpose is not to archive the media. For them is then to make some profit of it and not to share it with some like cultural value in it now. So yeah, maybe we'll need to look into their servers to find out what has been archived.
What's that thing called? The what's it? It's like the like you have like the right to be forgotten. That's like kind of how can you be forgotten online? Is it really ever possible? I don't know.
There's one more comment. I mean, the comments are coming, but maybe we can take one more before moving on. Oh wait, no, there's so Rugunsi writing, reaching out to meme makers, was it a challenging process? Some prefer to be anonymous and keep their identity to themselves, or were they open about sharing what they're doing?
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, it's like, so I was very lucky in that when I was doing my PhD, I had two supervisors, Karen Gregory and Kate Orton Johnson. They've both like written a lot about the ethics of research and the ethics of online ethnography. So when I started out my PhD, I was like very much like informed about what it means to do ethical research and how difficult it is to do ethical research. So I tried to hold myself up to a certain a certain standard, which was really hard at times because I was also like, I'm someone who makes memes and I've been like online since I was really, really young. I mean, I was moving all the time, so the internet became like a very important place for me. So I've been, you know, I've been involved very closely, I think, with such like internet culture. So I came with a lot of like kind of these like reflexive baggage, I think. So the way I did it was maybe I can show you through. I made a map about the people that I interviewed. I went to people who seemed to have a public persona, and they were generally people who were comfortable with sharing their faces or their names or their like sometimes private lives with their meme page. And because I was interested initially in like feminist and queer spaces, I felt that there was like a community sort of trust that was built into that I really wanted to also respect. So I kind of, the way that I approached meme makers was by thinking, okay, who do I think would be like willing to talk to me? And who's like, if I were to write about them, if I were to name them, and I don't like anonymize their names in my thesis, it's because they all had a huge following, and also I felt like the visibility was important, and because I was using their memes and they had so many followers, it'd be really like kind of useless to try to anonymize them because they were like public people, so like artists basically. That's how I saw them. And so I've gotten ghosted by meme makers. I mean, I like send one email, and I'll send one email and I'll probably send like a DM, and if they don't respond to that, then I just take the hint, you know, and I move on. So I don't like push people. That was helpful, I think. And that's just my like reflection on the process. I don't know if it answers your question, but I really like talking about like like ethnography. So yeah, just trying to find like a map. Well, if there's anything else I can answer, that we can do that.
There's another question about your hoarding practices or your methods and what do you use, but I guess that maybe it's also a good opportunity to
Hoarding methodology.
Yeah, to to share with us your hoarding methodology, how you develop your research.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just be so real, because I'm really inspired by this reading. It's called The 3 Lies of Digital Ethnography, and basically talks about how it like expands on this other piece called 10 Lies of Ethnography, in which you kind of, when you're writing up research after data collection, you're lying a bit, right? Lying is like maybe a strong word. It's kind of like a provocative title, and it is so on purpose. This sort of like research or article really talks about how you have you might like end up with a lot of data, and you might not see a way out, and you might like end up arguing for a specific sort of reading of that data, and then go back and kind of do this like iterative justification process constantly with conversation with your data. So I think that idea like really makes my hoarding practices worse, that there might be a need for my data, you know, because as I like, writing is kind of like my lab. As I write and add memes, I might even go back and change them. So I feel like I always need my like comfort memes to be on my desktop. I want to see if I can share my folder. I want to see, can you see this like Finder page, or is it just the
no, just the browser?
Okay. Let me see how I can advance. You share. Okay, yay, I got it. So this is the reality of it, okay, guys? Don't judge me, please. Oh, fuck. Right. So I hope you're I hope you're ready. Okay, here we go. This is my desktop, and you'll see some crazy stuff. Just ignore it, okay? I'm like being very vulnerable right now, so just like have some mercy. So I go to my 2022 folder. I go to my giant folder inside of that. And then I go all the way down and I find my thesis. And then in my thesis, I have my thesis chapters and my thesis data. As you can see, I added some other stuff as well, like the image I showed you with the exhibition posters. Another way I make sense of the memes is also by naming the files in a way that makes sense to me. So as you can see, I've done like feminist, right? What if is a sort of mimetic template, for instance. Just an explanation of how I do my coding. But if we go to thesis data, then there's more stuff, okay? Oh God, this is horrible. So yeah, visuals. And now we come to some of these platform screenshots, which are quite interesting. This is like a good chance for me to talk about another part of what I collected. So as I was doing research, I realized how important the digital platforms were in shaping the conditions in which a lot of like current cultural production happens. And I realized that the way that platforms talk about that is also quite interesting. And I decided to like screenshot instances in which the platforms were speaking in platform voice, you know, saying we mostly. By using this kind of platform voice, what were they saying about the culture that's being produced? What are they saying about the platform ideology? So I was also doing a bit of like discourse analysis on these like blog posts that I was collecting. And these blog posts were mostly, mostly from Patreon, which is one of the websites that I studied. And of course, the central platform, which was Instagram. And so this is, I think this is where it starts. So here we go. So this is called Nick Seaver, I believe, who's a scholar of I think software studies. He calls these sorts of artifacts platform heteroglossia. So heteroglossia comes from Mikhail Bakhtin's work, who was a Russian scholar researching folklore. He's often cited in internet research. So heteroglossia is those sorts of artifacts in which the you can say something about like the I guess the voice of the maker. So for instance, I think there is, so this was quite interesting. I mean, this is when Instagram was getting quite interested in, I think, using the popularity of memes to their advantage, right? So they did like a year in review, how memes were the mood of 2020. I mean, this is also like a very 2020 sort of title as well. So this is also particularly interesting as a screenshot because it's there's this whole mention of the world threw so much at us this year, from a global pandemic and a worldwide racial reckoning to a fight for social justice and more. That like sentence alone really describes what was really, I think, discussed in memes during this year. One of those memes that they shared was this one. This is from Instagram or Meta's blog post, like blog website. If anyone remembers this meme, I mean, these are also like, I think these are also very evocative, those memes that have kind of had a sort of popularity and hype and then have died. They're also like photographs of a time on the internet. It's a photograph of the zeitgeist. It really, I think, says a lot about what we were talking about at that point in culture, or what we were concerned with, or some of our even like kind of self-defense mechanisms as well, because memes are often likened to like therapy. I find that funny as well. Any questions I could answer? I think I have a few more things I could show.
On Twitch, I just have users, actually a Screenwalk alumni artist, Petra Zeman, who's used her eagle eye to point out some of the files that you showed in this great moment of generosity showing your desktop. So it's not really a question. Let me read. The first one is lol.jpg. And the second one is bigboy.pdf. I think I'm just gonna let this here, but you can continue. Yeah, big boy. That's my final thesis. It's this thesis. Okay, this is another interesting thing, right? Writing about memes and then writing a thesis about memes, or writing any sort of academic publication about memes, means that you have to include, if you're not doing something on text, if you're working with images, in which case I was working with a lot of images, you have to put in lots of images, and you have to, number one, deal with Word, which is not meant to do stuff like this. And then what happens is that they say, oh, your file's too large, or there's some like sort of like file limit. And then you have to compress all these memes into these like horrible, poor images. They're already like, they might already be like screenshots of screenshots to start with. And then you kind of, you shrink it so the PDF is accepted on the institutional website. And then you end up with these like horrible images. So the big boy file is the one where I didn't do any compression. So it's like, I don't know, 4K.
There's questions on the chat related to this thing about how to adapt your research into more of like the process and it was the institutional framework before. In this case, it's asking about in vivo. Luciana is asking, so you used in vivo during your research. How do you think this software impacted your analysis of memes from classification, thematic analysis, etc., instead of conducting the analysis right from your desktop? And a couple of laughs at the end, haha.
Yeah, so in vivo, actually, that's probably, the screenshot probably shows like the only time I was able to really use in vivo before it crashed. Like I said, I have a old computer, and it's like having like an old cat, you know, like the computer likes what it knows already. If you introduce new stuff, it just like does not want to deal with it. It'll leave the room. So with MVivo, I tried to use it and I crashed like every time I tried to use it. That's why I opted for Overleaf and kind of doing stuff on my desktop in the end. I tried to use MVivo, but I couldn't. Well, I did actually use, maybe this reminds me of Evernote. So I made these maps myself on Miro, which is again, this like thesis not only is like stuff happening inside of it, you know, within content, there's also like a lot of stuff that's happening as I write it, which I found to be interesting, in that I used so many digital platforms to to create this thing. Maybe, I don't know, I tried, every time I like got comfortable with one software, someone would say, have you tried Notion? Have you tried Miro? Have you tried, I don't know, Zorp? Or, like it's just like all these like weird news, like things that come out and tell you this is like how you can maximize your productive potential. This is how you can write better. Here's Grammarly, here's this, here's that. So I was also getting lost within all these like platforms. In the end, I decided to use Evernote to code because I was doing like a research assistantship in a project in sociology, and they were using Evernote to do code. So I started doing that as well. And that's what I ended up with at the end. But it was like a messy process. I was just, trying to be productive. But like created so many diversions. Let me see, where is that? Codes. Yeah, this is my this is my theory on how you build. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is how I ended up coding my interviews. If you're interested in that sort of thing, if there's like any ethnographers out there. I ended up using this sort of master code sheet, and I would look at these like general themes. Yeah. How about minion memes, huh? Okay, are there any other comments or questions I can answer, or should I talk more? What should we do?
Maybe you wanna share the tool that you use to download the memes?
Yeah, so this is Forcat. This is so you need to, if you want to scrape a lot of stuff from the internet, and scraping means like, it's like basically collecting comments, collecting posts from a particular website. You can use this tool called Forcat, and it's forcat.oilab.nl. And OILab is a meme research lab housed in the media studies department at the University of Amsterdam. And if you're a student, or if you're affiliated with the university, I think you have to be affiliated with the university, but maybe I'm mistaken. If you go to the website, you'll be able to see. You need to request access, and they'll give it to you quite quickly, actually. So if you want to do some scraping, then you can use this tool. And I mean, I can show you a data set that I created way back just to see.
There's a few questions popping up in the chat, but I'm also a bit worried about not maybe blocking you in the flow of your presentation. So maybe I'll just summarize some of the issue, and you see which one to tackle. Or I think some of these topics you will cover anyway. So Lucy's asking about copyrights, for example, and how to deal with copyright issues in publishing your research. Tim is asking about this idea of post-irony in the context of socio-political climate. And then Rugun is asking if your research is accessible to the public, or if it will be. And then finally, is asking very practically, how would you describe memes and meme culture to elderly parents? This seems like a question for somebody who has a need.
Yeah, so I can, okay, I think I'm going to start with the last question. The way that I explain memes to my parents, and now they can actually, sometimes they'll show me things from their WhatsApp groups, and they'll be like, hey, is this a meme? This is a meme, right? And I'll say, yes, it is. So like, I think this actually works. If you just explain that, I mean, we all know that, memes are not just images. They can be text, they can be videos, they can even be gestures or stories or copy pasta. But I think I generally start with memes as images. So I just say that, you know, memes are caricatures. Sometimes I say memes are digital cartoons, or they're cartoons that are circulated through digital methods, through like online platforms. And then I'll usually, it's likely that they would have, you know, if they use the internet, or if they use their phones, it might have been that they've sent you a meme before without knowing that it's a meme. So you can go back to your like chats and show them like, look, it's got like a cartoonish, it's like usually funny. It's got some text on it, it's got a caption, it's these like little, you don't really know where it comes from. The author is usually disguised, or it's anonymous. So that's how I would normally describe it, and I think it works that way. The other thing, copyright. So Lucy was asking about copyright. I think this is quite like a weird issue. So in my thesis, what I did was the memes that I had used so far, the authored memes. So I make a difference between like authored memes and anonymous or viral memes. And all my interviewees, they were all like making memes within their own specific style. So they all have like their own approach. And sometimes like when I see a meme online, I can recognize that it belongs to one of my, you know, one of the makers that I interviewed for my project. So that just shows that there's like some sort of authorial voice and authorial implication in those images. I asked consent to use them if I, you know, when I was interviewing them, written consent, because, you know, I said that I was going to use it in an academic context, so it was going to be like in articles or like academic presentations or stuff like this. But I would also caption the memes with their usernames, so as to provide the kind of credit lines properly. But when it came to viral memes in which you don't know where they really come from, they're kind of anonymous, then I try to like somehow find the original or come as close as I can to the original. And I basically sort of presented it within the fair use approach, because if it's like I think academic use of these sorts of like images fall under in UK and US law falls under fair use rules. So because I was writing it in the UK, I kind of used that as a justification, which no one which I didn't have any problems with. But we are actually working on trying to like publish something in which we want to use memes. We want to publish it with an academic publisher, and they're very reticent to use memes, understandably. There's different ways. I mean, you can make the memes yourself, right? That's also, if you've got a bit of drawing capability, you can just use some like I mean, it's not a good answer, I guess. It's this is like a funny thing to think about. It's making the memes yourself as the researcher, or meme copies. Yeah, and there was like another question. There's like two other questions that were more general that I can't really remember exactly.
Yeah, and more questions coming in too. Hold on, maybe I'm just gonna read the two last ones. One comes from Twitch, in fact, from Petra Sedman, saying, do you have an extremely meta meme that you are particularly fond of? And Petra shares one on the link here, which is a combination of Japanese to English translation stuff and 10+ year-old Death Note fan sub meme. But do you have any meme that you are particularly fond of?
Yeah, it's probably here somewhere. Let's see. I really like this one. There's that one that I like. What else is there? I like this one because it's really weird. It's like also very aggressive, I think. You don't really see a lot of sort of stuff like that. These days, where's that one that I like? I can't find it, but these days I really like the third thing meme. Why did it recommend Amazon for that search? That's so weird. Why would I search a third thing meme on Amazon? Bizarre. Okay, this meme is something that I've been kind of like a little bit obsessed with recently. I just keep thinking about it. I really want to know, can someone tell me what the secret third thing is? If you have any opinions, please drop it in the chat. What is the secret third thing?
Yeah, they are saying in the chat that it's a secret.
I hate this so much. I need to know what it is.
Meanwhile, as Jeff is asking if you could please tell more about Forecat, the scraping tool that you started to share before, that looks interesting.
Okay.
Petra said that the secret third thing is the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, okay. So this is really scary. I don't really remember what's in. Okay, so I'm doing a research project in which I'm interviewing Reddit moderators, and I'm also really interested in harm reduction when it comes to substances and drugs. So we're really pursuing kind of this project in which we try to understand how moderators shape knowledge production online. And I was quite interested in how they were moderating their communities, and they use this thing called an auto moderator. If you have been on Reddit, you know what this is. An auto moderator is this sort of a very basic, simple process in which you, let's say, like program a little like tool on your subreddit to moderate things, very basic things for you. So that can be about language. So let's say that I want to ban the word meme on my online community or online forum. Then I just kind of program my auto moderator to send a comment or warning to anyone who uses the word meme in the forum, or I might also program them to ban them completely. So that's what it is. And I was interested in what the auto moderator was doing for them within their content moderation processes. And as I was doing the interviews, I wanted to see if there were any memes on the subreddit Are Drugs about auto moderator. So I went to, what you can do is you can create a data set. Oh, I think I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry, if I sneeze, I'm sorry. You go, so it's like very simple to use. I tried to use it like 2 hours ago, and there was something in the queue and it didn't work. So I'm like kind of like I'm like a little bit scared. I hope it doesn't embarrass me. But so if you go to Reddit, you can use like the new beta. I'm gonna use the regular, just because I don't really know why. You can go like I'm doing some research on the Red Scare about the Red Scare pod memes. I'm not gonna show them because they're like crazy. So I go subreddit. So this is the subreddit that you're interested in. I'm interested in Are Drugs. So I just put in drugs. And then you can, this is if you're interested in anything in the body of a comment or a post, or you can look at, or you can scrape posts that match the title, so you're just searching by the subject. So I was looking at Amber Heard memes because I'm interested in like the Me Too sort of stuff, but in this case, let's moderator. I think this is what I can do. So and then I'll try to, I think what I was doing is I went all the way back. I like looked at when the subreddit was established, and then I went all the way back, let's say like, and then I kind of change it to, yeah, now. And I'll do all matching posts, or what you can do is you can also just look at the opening post, so you're not collecting any replies or comments. The great thing is that so there's like a whole lot of like really messy ethics involved with this sort of research, right? Because just because people put stuff on the internet doesn't mean that they consent to researchers taking their stuff and using them like willy-nilly. This kind of does something that is, I think, quite good, in which it gives everyone pseudonyms. So it replaces the author names of the posts with hashed values, and you can also make the data set private so the admins don't see it. And then you can, like, this is some of the stuff that I was trying to do the other a few hours ago. So I might go like drugs, yeah, right. And then I'll like create a data set. I don't know what's gonna happen, because it might be that there's a lot of like thousands of posts. I don't want to make the query just now, but if I click this, it'll say, you can see like waiting for input. When you click it, you'll see it like working through and scraping the subreddit based on the command that it's given you. And then what you have is, if you go to your data sets, you get a CSV file. I'm not going to open these, but yeah, this is just like a fun tool that you can do. Another thing I use actually that I found to be quite good is this thing called ParseHub. And let me see if I can show it to you. So again, my computer's old, so it might just break. And that would give this event a natural ending, I think, if I just like kind of went like silent. But yeah, so this is a good little program that you can use, which you can actually extract data from particular URLs. It's free as well, so have a look. It's really fun to play with. And in this case, it's like a little bit more complicated than Forcat, but I think you have a little bit more control over what you can do with it. Yeah, just quit that. Oh, I've got eyeliner. Why did no one tell me that I had eyeliner on my face? Okay, let me just share my screen again. Anything else, or should we like do like a final Q&A?
Maybe about post-irony from Tim.
Oh yeah, post-irony. Okay.
Right. He was asking, would you say that the current post-ironic meme era we're in is more a product of the contemporary socio-political climate, or a natural progression of the postmodern sensibilities in digital culture?
Damn.
Easy.
That's pretty deep. That's like a thesis. Like, my main argument is yeah, sure, I think yes, because yeah, there's like different ways of looking at it. I think this is like a little interesting story, but I went back to visit my parents, and I was thinking a lot about post-irony, and they had, when I moved out, they had kept some of my books, and when I went back home, I was looking for something to read to make sense of post-irony, because I was writing about trying to understand it and why we're in like this particular point in time where meme culture is so meta that it doesn't even bother with the cringe to, you know, like original to cringe, like meme process. It just goes to like meta irony as soon as like the meme is out. I don't know, it's hard to like explain, but so I was thinking about that, and I was like trying to make sense of it within a reading of cynicism and nihilism, and I kind of was attracted to the Nietzsche tomes, obviously. And so when I looked back on it, thinking that we were in a particular era of post-irony, I realized that I had already like thought about this stuff back in like 2014, and I was writing about it even back then. So I think maybe the current moment sometimes seems very unique to us. But I think it's been happening for a little bit. I think we've been in some sort of like maybe digital, I don't want to say like digital decline, but like an expansion of like a kind of the digital world into our everyday lives, in which now we're like so embodied with our phones and so embodied with our technologies, and we're so like intimately connected with, you know, something like a desktop or something like a dead website, that I think we put a lot of meaning into these like this digital ephemera, and the whole like the information overload, like the waves of information that we're under, makes it harder for us to really make meaning of our current existence. I think the memes are kind of a reflection of that. I think it shows like a whole degree of confusion, and also shows the kind of like what happens when you have like a bunch of people just consuming images and videos 24/7 around the world. It's something that I think technologically it is like a really particular point in time, but the humor is unchanging, because this sort of the same jokes were being made in Soviet Russia and all the way back into, I mean, I have like a bookmark here that really is quite funny. I wonder if I can see it now. Yeah, anyways, I wanted to show you like a little piece from like Hellenic theater about like the grotesque and the mundane, and I just want to show you that there's like a comedic thread that runs through like history that we're just like, I guess, engaging with in like new ways, new digital ways. But yeah, I think I'm getting like tired.
Yeah, no worries. That you've been already very generous, and especially given that you are with flu. So I think that you shared a lot of memes, a lot of your methods.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
It was useful. I hope
definitely.
It wasn't like all of it at once, but this is just like, I feel like this was like a very, very truthful reflection of how things happened for me in my like research process.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today, and for sharing all that with us. And thank you maybe also to the audience who is already writing messages on the chat. Also thanking you, Idil, for the screen walk.
Idil, thank you so much also from my side. Yes, very generous. And also John and I are digital voyeurs. We love seeing everybody's like desktop, so that was extremely satisfying.
That's why we started the screen walks, in fact.
We created a whole program for that. And also for sharing your tools and all of this reflection, engaging with the audience. Thanks to the audience as well for the wonderful questions, and we hope to see you all back with us in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll be here again in 2 weeks with Computational Mama, so please join us.